What camera gear do you actually need as a beginner, and what is just a complete waste of money? Because after years of using cameras, lenses, and all sorts of different gear, both as a hobbyist and as a professional, I can tell you that most beginners are buying the wrong stuff first. So my friend, let me show you the setup that I actually recommend for 94% of beginners. So the truth is, when you're shopping for your first camera, it is a complete jungle out there. Not only are there endless of brands and models as well, but you'll also very quickly start to hear people talking about full frame and then something called APS-C as well. And if you're new to photography, you're probably scratching your head thinking, what the hell is the difference? And what is this thing? So my friend, in just super simple terms, then inside the camera, I should probably hold my camera, but inside the camera, there is something called a sensor. And basically a full frame, I'll open one here, has just a bigger sensor and an APS-C has a smaller sensor. So this right here is a full frame camera, have it right here, and then this here is an APS-C camera. And take a look, you can easily see that this one, the full frame, has a bigger sensor than this one, you see? Now, if you start with a full frame, then those are absolutely great. I mean, better low light performance, a bit more background blur, and overall it's seen as a more high-end option. But that doesn't just automatically make it the best first option. You're with me? Because, my friend, the second that you step into the full frame world, the cameras, they usually get more expensive. The lenses, they also get more expensive. And suddenly the whole ecosystem or just everything that you're buying just costs way more money. And that is a big reason why I recommend starting out with an APS-C, specifically Sony APS-C. That's what I've been using and I know from the inside out for most beginners. You see, they are smaller, cheaper, lighter, and the lens ecosystem around them is also just so much more affordable. And you know, when you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out if this photography thingy, you know, is something for you or not, then that thing matters a lot. Plus, one thing that I've always liked so much about Sony cameras in general is that both the full frame and the APS-C are equipped with E-mount, which means that you can fit both APS-C lenses and full frame lenses on both cameras. And on top of that, Sony has loads of great third-party lenses that are genuinely excellent and don't cost a fortune. However, if you already know that you want a full frame camera right off the bat, then if I were buying my first full frame camera on a tight budget today, then I'd probably look at something like a used Sony A6, no, not A6, A7 Mark III. It's an absolute killer camera. You can get fantastic photos with it, and it has decent video capabilities as well. But for most beginners, I honestly think Sony APS-C makes way more sense. All right, so let's then talk about the camera that I actually recommend. So this camera right here is the Sony a6-400, the good old. It's equipped with a 24.2 megapixel APS-C sensor. It has Sony E-mount. It can film 4K footage up to 30 frames per second. And if you want that super slow motion, you can get 120 frames per second in full HD. Now it does also have a flip up screen, which is nice if you want to see yourself and vlog and do that, you know, weird stuff that us do social media content do, you know. And on top of that, it has a really fast autofocus with eye autofocus tracking as well. It can photograph 11 frames per second if I remember correctly. It does not have in-body stabilization, so it's by no means a perfect camera or anything, but it is pretty damn good, and some of my best photos to this date were shot on this little bad boy right here. Now, I would also 100% recommend you to check out the second-hand market to see what you can find. You can find this camera for a pretty good deal. Now, if it's still a little bit out of your budget, no problem. You can go for an older version as well. Here, we have the Sony a6-300. This is basically the same camera. It's a few years older, so you get it for cheaper. And also one thing that I haven't showed you guys, what I've always liked about this camera, they are so small. Pretty much fits in my palm, put them in my pocket, no problem. Is it the best camera out there? No, like not at all. Which is a great camera to begin with, you know, and you're gonna have a good time if you pick it up. a6-300, pretty much the same. Now, one thing I think is important to know and keep in mind is that what was once a good camera is still a good camera today. And just because cameras are a few years old doesn't mean that they're automatically bad. Matter of fact, they're actually pretty great. Now, one thing you guys also accuse me often of is to be a total Sony fanboy. How dare you? Okay, that's pretty true. I'm really deep in the Sony ecosystem and I know a lot about those cameras and I genuinely think they are sick. Now that does not mean that Sony is the only good camera brand out there. And to make this video more complete, then I did a little deep dive for you guys, and here are 3 other budget-friendly cameras from other camera brands. Number 1 is the Nikon D750. This is a full-frame camera and the DSLR. Picture quality of this one seems to be pretty good. I've talked to friends that have used it a lot and they vouch for it. Now the second camera is the Canon EOS 5D Mark III. This is a full-frame DSLR as well. And my Canon friends, they say, hey, this you can get for a pretty decent deal. And it's pretty damn good, especially when you're starting out. And then the third camera, and this one looks really cool, and that is the Fuji X-T20. This is a mirrorless APS-C. And I've also heard that this is a pretty decent camera as well. Now, one thing I want to add to this discussion is that when you get to older cameras, especially the DSLR cameras, even though the image quality and picture quality really, really good, especially for the money that you're buying, then the autofocus, it's not on the pair, for example, with the Sony a6400 or something like that. And also, if the Sony a6400 or a6300 is out of your budget, then go with older version. A6000 is an older version. It is almost the same, it just can't film in 4K. And then you even have a65000 or even NEX7 as well. However, my friend, before you make up your mind, we need to dive into what's without a doubt the most important aspect when it comes to buying a new camera, which is also something I see a lot of people mess up all the time. And that is, of course, the choice of the lens. But before we do that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Artlist, which is honestly one of the best one-stop shops out there for creators and a platform I've been personally using for years for all of my music, sound effects, templates, plugins, and basically everything that I need to create high quality content on consistent basis. And lately, they've been diving deep and going hard on making the latest and greatest AI tools so much easier for creators to actually use, but more importantly, they've been building a simple and intuitive platform that makes this whole thing feel genuinely useful in a real workflow. And that's honestly been an absolute game changer for me. You see, I use this a lot for helping me brainstorm, helping me also with thumbnails or creating other digital assets when I want to push my ideas a little bit further. And now they have just released something that they call Artlist Studio, which is a really interesting new AI video production platform. You see, what's cool about Artlist Studio is that it gives you way more control over the entire process. So instead of just prompting and hoping for the best, you can actually build a cast, define a location, frame the shot, control the lighting, camera, and motion, and even direct things in a much more intuitive way. Now, personally, I think the most exciting use cases for AI video right now is using it together with real life footage, because you're basically enhancing what you're already doing. Whether that's creating shots that would otherwise be
too expensive and out of your reach,
or enabling you to create something totally impossible. So my friend, whether you want to make spec commercial or test creative ideas, build cinematic sequences, or just fill in that missing shots without having to go out and reshoot, Artlist Studio gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot more control. And right now, Artlist is doing a special launch offer where you will get 50,000 credits with Artlist AI Prone Plan to start creating right away with Artlist Studio. Now all that you can find down in the description down below, and massive thank you for Artlist for helping me keeping these videos coming to you guys. All right, my friends, so choosing a good lens is way more important than choosing a perfect camera. And the reason that I say that is because a lens, it plays a massive role in the overall image quality of your photos. And you see, a mistake a lot of beginners make is spending way too much of their budget on the camera, and then they just buy whatever lens that they can afford afterwards. But personally, I would much rather save a bit on the body and buy a much bigger does not have to be big, although bigger is better, you know. I hope that's not true. But I would much rather buy a better and a more expensive lens than the other way around. Because the truth is, camera bodies, they get older a lot quicker. You probably swap them out more often over time. But a good lens, it can pretty much last you for life. Just like with cameras, then when you're looking at lenses, it's also a complete jungle out there. There are loads of brands, loads of options, loads of focal lengths, and on top of that, you quickly realize that there are two main types of lenses. You have prime lenses, and then you have something called zoom lenses as well. And of course, like with everything else in life, then internet has turned this into yet another argument where both sides think that they are right, and they are both willing to die on that hill. So my friend, to keep this simple, a prime lens is a lens that has one fixed focal length. So maybe it's a 35mm, a 50mm, or even an 85mm. Basically, you're not able to zoom with it, you know? Now, the pro of a prime lens, and I have one right here, is that they are often or usually are a little bit sharper. They usually also have a wider maximum aperture, which means that they can let in more light and work better in low light situation. And they give you more background blur, that beautiful bokeh. And sometimes they're also smaller and lighter. Now notice that I just say sometimes and usually because of course that's not like always the case. Now a zoom lens on the other hand, right here, it lets you move through multiple focal lengths in one lens. So instead of being stuck at 35mm, then maybe you got something like a 16 to 55mm, like this one right here, which is obviously a lot more versatile. But the trade-off is that zoom lenses, they are often a little bit less sharper and usually don't give you quite as wide of an aperture. Again, not always, but that's generally the trade-off. Now, a lot of people will tell beginners that you have to get a prime lens to begin with because it forces you to really learn one focal length properly. Let's say that you buy a 35mm. After a while, you start to understand how that lens sees the world. And because you can't zoom, you have to move your feet, which can absolutely help you improve your composition. On top of that, prime lenses can also be amazing for learning because they simply just simplify things. You're not constantly zooming in and out, so you can focus more on the framing, timing, and then the most important part, composition. And honestly, that is a pretty fair argument, and I totally understand why people say that. But personally, I use zoom lenses way more often, even though I own a lot of prime lenses, because zoom lenses, they suit my run and gun style much better. You see, I'm often moving around a lot, I hike a lot, and I want to stay flexible. I mean, I shoot mostly landscapes. Plus, I just honestly cannot be bothered by switching lenses all the time. I'm a little bit lazy there too, you know. But I'm carrying a lot, you know. I can't carry my kids and everything and then on top of that, multiple different lenses. I mean, with a zoom lens, you can go out for one walk and try wide shots, maybe tighter shots as well. You can also try detail shots and even a portrait or two without constantly swapping lenses all the time. And for beginners, this kind of flexibility is honestly huge. Because, my friend, when you're just starting out, you don't really know what kind of photography you enjoy the most yet. Maybe you will end up loving wide shots a lot, and maybe you prefer tighter shots. Maybe you'll even get into travel, street, portrait, cars, videos. You just don't know it yet. And that is exactly why I recommend zoom lenses for most beginners, because you don't just lock yourself into one focal length before you even know what kind of photography or what kind of photos you actually enjoy making. Plus, I just love how versatile this is, you know. Slap it on a clang, take a bunch of photos. But don't get me wrong here, prime lenses are absolutely amazing, and down the line you will pick up a few and be like, oh wow, the quality here is so good, and the aperture, oh, so low, we love it. Which brings us to the part, what actual lenses do I recommend? Now, in my hand here, I have the Sony 16 to 55mm f2.8. This is a fantastic lens. And generally speaking, Sony lenses are really good quality. Problem is though, that they are pretty expensive. Like, I don't know why they make them so expensive, because you can get really good glass that is not Sony that I can't really see the difference, you know, specifically Sigma. Sigma is a Japanese company too that makes fantastic lenses. And if I were starting out, then I would probably not pick this lens, and instead I would pick a Sigma 18 to 50mm f2.8. Now you lose a little bit of range, but that lens is so much smaller. It is tiny, which is super nice that you pick it on a tiny body, and then your whole setup is just small, easy to carry with you. Plus 18 to 50mm on APS-C is a really good range. You have pretty wide angle. It's not like ultra wide, but wide enough. And then you get also little bit of more tighter shots as well. So it's definitely nice. Now, another lens that I haven't tried myself, but have been recommended often to check out is the Tamron 17 to 17mm f2.8. I've heard great things about that as well. Now, if you are into prime lenses and you want to go that route, no problem, then definitely do check out the Sigma Trio. I have the Sigma 56mm here. They have 16, 30, and 56mm. They're a little bit on the older side of lenses, but still pretty great. And I do have to give a shout out then to a Chinese camera manufacturer called Viltrox. They make a lot of really, like, surprisingly good glass for really good like money. So they definitely do check out some Viltrox lenses if you're into getting some pretty good primes as well. Now, if you do go then with the Sigma 18 to 50mm and you want to get another lens, then a good choice there is to go get a little bit wider. Of course, you can get a more zoom lens as well, but in my opinion, at least the way I shoot and what I like to do, then getting a Sigma 10 to 18mm, then you're covered from 10mm up to 50mm, and you're gonna have, like, you're gonna go around just go like, oh, this is so fun. Because photography is just amazing, you know. Now, let's talk about then the accessories that you need and the ones that you should absolutely avoid. And I think it's just a trap, especially for beginners, because let's face it, in photography, it's more than just cameras and lenses. There are a little bit more things that is really good to know and really good to have, you know. So let's start with what you absolutely need and then what you should avoid. To start with, what you absolutely need to have is SD cards. If without an SD card, you're not shooting anything. Now, a lot of people get confused because they come in different speeds. Now, usually it's like V30, V60, or V90. If you're getting a Sony a6400, you don't need anything faster than V30. That is good enough. So just keep that in mind. You don't need the fastest and best because camera can't simply, you're not going to use it on that camera, you know. Another thing that you will need is a spare battery. On the a6400, you have these small Sony batteries. They are so-so. Not the best that I've tested, but if you get 2, 3, 4, you are good to go. And you don't have to get the Sony batteries. You can get a third-party battery and save yourself a little bit of money. I don't see a huge difference there either. Now, another thing that is good to have is, of course, have a lens cloth with you. And then I don't have my dust blower here, but one of them dust blowers, super nice to have two in your bag. Then another thing that can be handy, it's not totally needed. Most of my shots are handheld, but a simple tripod, it can be good to have, especially if you want to take star photos or you want to take slow shutter speed or anything where you want to have the camera super steady. Now, I have a pretty expensive carbon fiber tripod from Peak Design. It is way overpriced. It's great. I love it, but it's just overpriced for sure. Now, if I were just starting out, then I would check out a company called Ulanzi. They make pretty decent tripods that you can pick up for pretty decent price that work pretty decently. So a few things that you absolutely don't need, and a trap I see a lot of beginners fall into. You don't need an expensive camera cage or anything like that. You don't need a giant and a heavy tripod, and you don't need loads of cheap filters. Maybe, of course, if you want to get an ND filter, you can do that, and having a mist filter can be fun, but it's not needed, and it's an easy way if you start buying things that you don't need. Also, to start with, you don't need multiple lenses. I would preferably pick one, start with that, and then you will understand what lens you might in the future, because once you shoot, you just go like, I'm limited here. Maybe I need this. And also base your next purchases based off your limitations to something you want to do. And YouTubers say all the time, gear doesn't matter. It's kind of true, but kind of not. Gear absolutely matters, but it only matters when you know what to use it for and what you need it for, you know? So keep that in mind. If you're limited by something, then you go like, okay, how can I get this? And then you buy whatever the tool that helps you do that, you know? But the thing is, and people get this wrong all the time, is that better photography isn't built through one big breakthrough or you finally finding that one perfect camera. You see, it's usually those small little habits that you repeat over and over again that slowly change everything. So my friend, watch this video next and I'll walk you through the 10 habits that will genuinely level up your photography this year.